Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden, and the moderately looking gentleman next to me, this guy's name is Tim. This is The Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Oh, people of The Second Legacy, we have a treat today. I'm going to let Tim choose, because we have gun controller du jour today. We have Chris Murphy doing his Chris Murphy thing, and then we have Jerry Nadler, whom I affectionately call the high-waisted fiend. We're going to dive into this, both gun control extraordinaire, both incredibly annoying, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. All right, Tim, before you get to make the decision of our fates, to choose your own destiny, how you doing, man? How's life today?
It's good. It's Thursday. It's almost the weekend.
It is. We're almost
got
there.
A few more weekends, nice warm weather, and then we're going to start, our winter preparations. So,
well, you are. I'm down here in, wintertime hits about 60, and woo! But enough of that. I'm just going to enjoy my warm life. Now, Tim, back to brass tacks.
Yes.
This is key, and I know you love both of these guys. It's gun controller du jour today. What are we feeling? Are we feeling Chris Murphy? Are we feeling the high-waisted fiend, Jerry Nadler?
Let's go with the man with no midsection.
That would be, for the people who are not aware, Jerry Nadler. He has chosen, well, this is amazing, Tim. So let me give you a little setup. A fine choice indeed. Well, excuse me, Mr. Jerry Nadler, the high-waisted fiend, I will always say it because it's so true. He was in the Rules Committee, and in this, Tim, I love this clip because it really shows a connection. It really gets a relaxed Jerry Nadler. It's not like the Jerry Nadler high-waisted fiend of old when he was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, when he was pushing through assault weapon bans and
Russia.
taxes. Yeah, yes. All those things. This is a more relaxed. It's more of a deep cut, if you will. So, with that lead in, let's just start off right. Tim, let's get number one, Mr. Producer. This is the first clip.
What is the biggest cause of death for children in the United States?
The biggest cause of death for children in the United States, by far, is gun violence.
And if we want to protect our children, what would be the rational thing to do, given that there are so many deaths by gun in this country?
We're just going to cut it there before he starts talking. So Tim, what a setup.
It's those IOVs, ma'am. It's the IOVs.
It's the IOVs. It is indeed the IOVs. I love the Cheshire Cat move he was rocking.
Yeah, it's like, well, I know all this. But it's just for those of you that aren't familiar, haven't seen the last episode where we coined the phrase IOV, that is inanimate object violence. That's to counter the gun violence notion, which inanimate objects don't have free will and can't commit acts of violence, so we're just going to call them IOVs while they mislabel them. So anyway.
No, it works. It works. So let's break this. This was just the intro. This wasn't even the goodness. This is like that first taste, all right? So with the high-waisted fiend, he comes out and he opens a big broad salvo with a little bit of arrogance, a lot of condescension, and ultimate knowledge, air quotes. Did you know, Tim, that gun violence is not a term? It's actually something that's propagandistic from the left around anything gun-related? Did you know that? Because crime with inanimate object violence, and I just have to point it out, Tim. If we're going down and not even touching the whole children thing, which we're going to get to in a second, the whole gun violence being the number one cause of children thing, touching in a second, let's just go down the road of, do you know how many violent acts that they're talking about? When they say gun violence, do you know up-to-date numbers on how many people are actually victims, what they would call, of gun violence in an annual year? Then we'll break it down further. You know the number?
No, I'm not aware of the exact number, but I know they include like 40-year-olds in their numbers.
Yes, they include Yes. Well, here we go, people. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, while Tim is right, that number is around 45,000 people per year. Now, when you break this down even further, you're going into 45,000 people out of how many people? 330 million people in the country. Yeah. 330 million people in the country, 45,000. And when you break this down further again, the 45,000 is divided by about half, because half of those, so around 27.5, are self-inflicted, and the other are homicides. So really, when you're talking about gun violence, you're going down around 27,000 people out of 330 million. Now, I'm not minimizing the fact that happens. I wish none of them did happen across the board. But the idea that they are saying 27,000 people amongst 330 million people is this huge epidemic and scourge, and we need to curtail all gun rights across the entire country, doesn't it seem like there might be a few minute steps, Tim, that we could talk about before we even start talking about children?
Well, I think probably a great way to focus, instead of focusing on IOVs, inanimate objects, maybe you should focus on the criminal. Because, I mean, as crazy as that sounds, you say, well, this person killed that person. Okay, cut their arms off. Oh, but he can still bite them. Well, then cut his head off. Whoa, wait, we can't do that. Give him cashless bail. But anyway, so they never want to talk about the criminal.
Was that an Illinois reference?
Yes.
Did you just make an Illinois reference?
I slipped that in there. It's too close to me. So they constantly want to blame these inanimate objects for the ill will and actions of people, and they never ever want to talk about the criminal. The minute you bring up the criminal in the conversation, you're a racist, and we don't want to talk to you anymore, or whatever they want to call you. It's not always a racist. It's just whatever. It's an ist. They're going to call you some ist.
It's an ist.
Because they don't want to have the conversation, because they know the conversation doesn't play well with their shtick. So,
correct. And that's the piece where we go into this next one. And guys, I know we do this every single time because it's such an obvious comparison. We are not a abortion or non-abortion, pro-choice, pro-life channel. That's not what we're about. But the setup of this woman alone, when the Democratic position on abortion is pretty much pro-choice whenever you want, to say, how do we save the children? Well, I've got some ideas.
Yeah, I can think of about 1 million ways you could save 1 million lives, not 27,000, but I could quickly save 800,000+ lives of children.
Right.
I got this crazy notion.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Particularly since you're talking around 27,000 instances of actual crimes committed by criminals. And on the inverse position, you've got, like you said, around 800,000 to 1 million with no criminality. Completely. Okay, I can't get too deep into this. I can almost feel YouTube, the Eye of Sauron coming at me. Exactly. But legitimately, it seems a bit of a juxtaposition, Tim, when it's all about the children. Well, what about pro-choice versus pro-life? How dare you?
Oh, you misogynist. See, there's the ist again.
What?
You hate women. No, actually, I love women. I'm just asking an honest question. No. Quit diverting. You want to save the children, the ones you don't abort? So,
exactly.
Which ones do you want to save here? Because you don't have the moral high ground, is the point, right?
It's so
As
bad.
He said, we're not taking a public position on abortion rights. We keep using that because that's such an obvious comparison. They always want to talk about saving the children, except for the 1 million they kill every year. And so...
Yeah, that's awkward.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward. And if you keep throwing that in their face, maybe eventually they'll get the clue and move on to the next argument, which will be just as asinine, but,
Yeah, but so now, Tim, we've gotten all this just off of that one intro. I can't wait for the main one. Oh, because the high-waisted fiend. Oh, he'll get his in a second. Don't you worry, people. The second legacy. So here's the last piece that I want to touch on. Just in that one sentence, in his smug little arrogant response. Now let's talk about without question, the number one cause of death in children is gun violence. No, it is not. If you look at the study that they're citing, and they picked up about a year ago when this became the new hotness for gun control talking points, the majority of murders that happen with, air quotes, children, the graph starts at 15 and goes all the way to 19 in an exponential fashion. The amount of people 15 and under that are actually are inflicted by this is minuscule compared to the actual teens and the adults over 18. They don't even talk about that because they would undermine their point. Again, I don't want any of these things to happen. I don't want a child to be inflicted by this. What I'm drawing attention to is the fact that they are gaslighting and manipulating you through lying statistics, and then they completely obfuscate the entire idea that it's teenagers and brand new adults causing all of this, but they lump children in. Total lie.
Yes. But that's all they have are lies, misdirections, and the skewing of data. They always want to say, well, we have this report, we have this data, but when you dig in, which they don't want you doing, you realize they're grossly inflating numbers, moving things around, and basically they go into data by saying, okay, here's the outcome we want. So how do we manipulate the data to get this outcome? That's literally how they do it. It's just like how the news media reports on things many times. They have a desired outcome, who they want to blame and who they want to, make out to be the bad person, and then they shape the story around that desired outcome, and then you get your propaganda.
Yes.
And this is nothing more than false propaganda that he's citing.
100%. And if you thought that setup was great, Let's go to the second clip. Tim, get your pencil ready. He hits all the wonders here.
Oh, was you going to say the quiet part out loud?
No. He skips so far past the quiet part. He just gets on his drum and just starts listing off all the things that are rational. Rational.
Reasonable.
So let's hit number 2. Reasonable restrictions. Number 2, Mr. Producer.
Rational thing to do would be what the House did last year, passing a bill to require universal background checks on guns, which we had in this country from 1994 to 2004, passing a bill to close the Charleston loophole. These bills would keep guns out of dangerous hands. A bill to pass a federal red flag law so that people who are a danger to themselves or others, according to a court, can't get a hold of guns. A renewed assault weapons ban, the Protecting Our Kids Act. We passed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was a step forward, but a small step compared to what we ought to be doing.
The Safer Communities Act was a step forward. It was landmark. It was the most incredible and comprehensive gun control in 30 years. But we need more.
But we need more because it was a meager step. Let's just, you know what? Hold on. I got to finish this list, Tim. Let's see. So let's just hit all the things that we just want to touch on there. Because like I said, you got to write this down. So we've got universal background checks. That was a fun one. We've got AWBs. We have Charleston loophole. We're going to hit all these in order. It's going to be so great. What was some other things there? We had
Ethan's law.
Yeah, national red flag law. Yeah. That's good. National, of course. And then we had Ethan's law. Wow. You know what? Let's just set up camp on those. But before we do, Tim, I told you it was full. That was the main course right there, right? Because it's rational. But let's talk about this, Tim, because you bring up a very valid point. On the Senate Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, well, that piece of trash passed and got signed into law. And since then, the high-level impact, we have the ATF redefining who can have a gun and with mandatory waiting period of 10 days for 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They're constitutionally adults, by the way, have every right we do, can vote, go into mortgages, do all the things, go to war. Then you've got changing the definition of who's a gun dealer through executive bureaucracy fiat.
Basically, if you buy or sell a gun, you're now a gun dealer.
Yeah, essentially. There's a few little cool caveats, like if it's in a case or if it's not in a case,
right,
and if it's 30 days or not 30 days, whatever we determine. Then you've got red flag law bribery from the federal to the state level, of which, by the way, don't worry, due process was in there, they told us, and they turned out to be giving money away with no due process anyway. So that's the 3 things that we've got so far from that meager step. It was a cute step, but it didn't go far enough.
Yeah. I mean, that's a nice beginning, right?
Oh my God.
Because this is what we talked about in I think it was yesterday's video. If you ask these people, where is the end point? Okay, so you've proposed all these things just shy of a ban, with the exception of the assault weapons ban, because he did say the ban word there. But aside from a complete ban on firearms, you just want these reasonable restrictions, and you claim you're not coming after our guns. So where's your cutoff point? What are you willing to pass and have it all fail, as it always does, before you say, okay, you're right, gun control doesn't work, we quit? They can't tell you, because what they really want is a ban. Because if this doesn't work, then they're just going to keep going up the line. Like, well, we let you keep that, we're going to have to take that away now. Oh, we let you have that, you can't be responsible, we're going to take that away now. Until they get to the point of where they go, all right, Mr. and Mrs. America, Dianne Feinstein, turn them all in. Because that's where they're going with this.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. That's why we fight so hard on all of our channels. Your channel, my channel, this channel, all of them. Because it's obvious what they're doing. If you're paying attention to where they go and what they say and how they do it, it's always a game of one step further, death of 1,000 cuts, boil that frog to death until it's frog soup. It's always like that. And if you hearken back to when they were talking about the bipartisan compromise bill that passed the Senate, it was lauded as the best, single most amazing accomplishment that's ever existed for the Biden administration.
It's going to save millions of lives, and here we are, a year in, and they're like, okay.
Yeah. A year in, Chris Murphy the next day was out there going, okay, guys, it's not everything we wanted, but we got something. I mean, like, it was within 24 hours. I covered it. But keep in mind, like, follow this path. And this is the important piece of why we're covering this, because it seems innocuous, but it's not. If you follow this entire path, in his intro statement, he led with a lie and misrepresentation of data. He then uses that to say the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was a good step, and then he lists out all the things that a rational human being would be. Do you see that step progression? So now, Tim, let's just go down. Let's just hit these one by one. So the AWB, you have experience in this because I believe you were actually you weren't doing a YouTube channel at this time, but you were absolutely a part of the AWB in '94, right?
Well, yeah. YouTube didn't exist in '94. Young man.
Did it not? Did it? Did you just old man me?
Yep.
Don't you old
young man
You're
you.
not wise.
Young man you.
You don't know my life. Get back to the topic,
All right.
sir.
Yeah. No. I did live through the assault weapons ban. Yes, and that was very, very interesting.
And Reconstruction.
Yeah, and Reconstruction, and I did see General Washington cross the Potomac. I wish I had a camera back then.
Had to be quite a sight.
But anyway, yeah. No, I did live through the assault weapons ban. And you know what? I keep seeing these dolts on Twitter and stuff like that saying, we just need to bring back the assault weapons ban and get these weapons of war off the street. I'm like, you do realize that we continue to sell AR-15s, AKs, Uzis, all that stuff through the entire ban because all they did was just ban the looks? Because they can't ban the function? Because they have to say, well, we have to ban all semi-automatics. They're not going to say that right now because they don't have the political capital. So they're going to say, well, we're going to ban the ones that look a particular way. We can't define functionally where they're different, but they sure look. This one doesn't look as nasty as this one, so we're going to ban the nasty looking one. But you can have it as long as you put a thumbhole stock on it, take the flash hider and bayonet lug off. Then it's not an assault weapon anymore. But they've gotten wise to that. The next one that they propose, of course, it goes back and forth. But trust me, when they get they think they have the political capital, they're going to ban them outright not by appearances anymore. They're just going to say you can't have an AR-15, you can't have an AK, you can't have this, or anything else that even resembles it loosely. That's where we're going to go.
But I mean, they already did it. They did it last year with Nancy Pelosi's house. Now, it didn't go through the Senate, which we talked about wasn't going to happen. I know independently it wasn't. We talked on our own channels. But that's just common sense and rational, Tim, even though it had no outcome of benefit at all on any statistics and analysis. But that's not important because it's common sense and rational. Well, now let's go down the next one because he put out quite the litany there. Universal background checks. Now, Tim, they will tell us that universal background checks, they are so loved by the American people. 80 to 90% love them. The only problem is when they ask people, hey, do you believe in background checks? And 80 to 90% of people say, yeah. They don't have the same question ready that says, do you believe that you should have to sell a gun every time or run a background check every time you sell a gun outside of a store? Because the numbers would be dramatically different. Yeah. Again, misrepresentation. Universal background checks would require a national registry. It is impossible without a national registry. You notice he didn't say national registry.
No, he can't say that.
Isn't that weird?
No.
Odd.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Actually impossible.
Yep.
Because you don't know where A to B.
And then with the safe storage nonsense, you just all you have to do is look to Europe to see how that's implemented. So if you're going to have a safe storage requirement, then the state must know what you have, where you store it, and then they have to have access to your house whenever they want, where they can surprise you so you can't hide things or move them quickly to the safe. So they have to be able to show up on your doorstep and say, "Hey, we're here for a quick compliance check. Just let us in."
Right.
That's how they implement this, but they can't talk about the details because people will go, "Oh my gosh," because people aren't smart enough, many of them, to make the connection. Like, "Oh yeah, safe storage law makes a lot of sense. Let's require them to safely store their gun," and then they realize basically you just gave the government a license to walk into your house anytime they want to. That's not a violation of any amendment I can think of.
Exactly. And so this is the cool part, people of the Second Legacy. When we're going through each of these individually, then we're going to zoom out, and I'm going to show you all the facets of what they're building. So we've covered Ethan's Law, which is what Tim just hit on, safe storage. You would require an actual organization to confirm that. That's what Tim was just touching on. We've talked about universal background checks, which would require a registry, which you know where everything is. AWBs means an assault weapons ban. So now they ban certain weapons, and they have a registry, and they have an organization that's going to go check if they're safe stored. That's what they have so far in his little list. Now let's go to red flag laws on a national level. Red flag laws, as imposed by New York, California, Illinois, anyone can complain against you. A court will decide if you're a threat or a danger to yourself or others without you even knowing, and then they send the police to come confiscate your guns, and you have to prove over a 6 month to a 12-month time frame that you are not a threat, so you are guilty until proven innocent, which is a theme in our culture right now. So, Tim, tell me what this sounds like. If I just take all these pieces and put them on my hand real quick. You're going to ban assault weapons completely. Okay, so no more of something. You got a universal background check system, which means you have a national registry, which knows where A to B goes. Charleston loophole, which is a stupid thing they just say. I'm not even going to address it. Red flag law, which is your ability to have your rights be taken without you even knowing by a court, without you facing your accuser, there's a due process violation. And then Ethan's law of the guns they haven't taken from you, of the guns they haven't banned, and of the guns they've allowed you to universally background check, they will come and check them whenever they want in your home to guarantee their safe storage. What does that sound like all piecemeal together?
A ban.
That
real
sounds
close.
kind of like a overall, it's almost like they're building an entire infrastructure where you can only see one beam at a time, and before you know it, wow, would you look at that, Tim? They figured it out.
Yep. So, with the assault weapons
Weird.
ban, they're going to ban anything that they can load itself. They're going to ban magazines over 10 rounds. They're going to ban everything they possibly can, leaving us with lever actions, bolt actions, single shots, black powder, things like that. That's their goal in all of this. Then with everything else, what they're doing is narrowing it down and cornering you, registering you, knowing exactly everything you have. And the last step in this process is to take it all away because they know exactly what you got and where you keep it. That's where this is going, and this is the part they won't say out loud because this is the only way they can achieve what they want to achieve. They know that there's so many guns out. They don't want you making your own guns. They're going to ban that because then you can't. Then you're off the radar. Then you're flying below that radar. They don't want you having the ability to even sell your own property. Right? I mean, this is just nuts that they could say, you know what, you can't really sell that. And then it even worse is that, like, with this current ATF rule change where they're saying, well, you know what defines an FFL or what defines a gun dealer versus just a regular person. If you're a Glock collector and you have like 4 Glock 17s of different generations, well, you're a gun dealer now because you have more than one of a type. It's like, right. It's just unbelievable where they're taking this, but they won't tell you the whole thing. They're just going to tell you the stuff that sounds good and reasonable, which is, I mean, don't you just want people to store their guns safely? We don't want to tell you how we're going to enforce that one, but doesn't it make sense?
It just makes sense. It's common sense, Tim.
It's just unbelievable.
It's for safety.
It's so frustrating. But see, the fence sitters and the people that aren't gun owners, they're going to look at this and go, yeah, sounds reasonable.
Because and this is the important piece. This is why we're doing this. It is so powerful when you can piece together everything that we just broke down, because they are building a monster, or at least an attempted monster. We're going to stop them because they are losing. Just want to say that out loud. They are attempting to build a monster one leg at a time, and before you know it, you've got a freaking octopus. They have got all the legs of what they want to design, and they don't need the head yet. All they got to do is put the legs in place. And once the legs are in place, it's very simple push to go, see, none of this is working. Now we just need to consolidate this under something like a Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Oh, would you look at that, Tim?
That seemed to pop up.
Wait, did you see how I tied that together? Man, the people should know about us. It's insanity. Yep. It's so easy to see what they're doing. So easy.
It is.
So easy.
They're transparent, but again, they're so gifted in their propaganda, and of course, then they have all the mainstream media propaganda outlets that spin it for them. But it's no different than this gun control package the Republicans signed on to. That was the most incredible thing in the last 30 years. And Republicans like, well, we're going to go ahead and sign on to this, the rhinos, because we've put these due process assurances in the bill, and then it's not even a week later they're like, all right, let's just do it all. Due process. Well, yeah. Well, that was cute, guys. Go away. Anyway, so let's just round them all up. It's just unbelievable.
But in a solid, happy note, we are going to win this.
As long as we keep this, I'm so worried about a justice or two retiring. I really am.
No, Tim. We're gonna bring it back here. We're gonna finish on a delicious piece of dessert. All right, let's leave something sweet for him to come back. Okay. We're gonna win this, and the reason that we're gonna win this, at least in my opinion, you can tell me if you think, we're gonna pass this next generation on the rights that we received. But the reason why is right now we are getting victory after victory after victory after victory, fighting this machine back that has been built over the past 100 years. It is being torn down faster than it was being built. The middle's not even awake yet. Legitimately, the far right, if you're going to call it that, the gun advocates, they're awake, but they're not fully mobilized yet. It's only a matter of time. Because this bad boy it's happening. I'm telling you.
The only time I've ever seen gun owners really mobilize is when there's an immediate threat. Like it's a bill pending. They're voting on it tomorrow. Like during the Obama administration when I joined countless others when we went down to the Indianapolis, and everybody's out there with their firearms protesting on the Capitol lawn. but they weren't there before we got to the point where they're literally voting on it the next day. We have to be more active as a community. We have to be out there politically engaged. We can't wait until the lion's at the door and then take action. We have to be preemptive because these people are planning this out. They're playing a long game. We're playing the game 100%. Of reacting to everything they do to us, and we have no overarching strategy. They do. And they're carrying this out, and they know in 50 years they're going to get to where they need to be if we continue to be asleep at the wheel. And so it's incredibly important gun owners get politically engaged.
Yes. That. High-waisted fiend approved.
The man with no midriff, yes. So much fun there, old Nadler. You goofy old man.
Wrap us up. This is the point where we always get in trouble. Just wrap it.
All right, guys. He's absolutely right. There was a natural pause there, and I was just, yeah. Okay. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We love bringing you this news, and we love having some fun with this news. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the content. If you do, like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. We will talk to you guys soon.